All right, aloha everyone. I'd like to welcome you to today's webinar, which is entitled Test Drive Your Future, 5 Steps to Success and Happiness for Your Son or Daughter. Now, before we get into the nuts and bolts of my presentation, I want you to take a moment and just imagine your son or daughter's future. And ask yourself if you could wave a magic wand and have the ideal future just poof into existence. What would it look like? What would it feel like? Now take a moment to feel the pride, the joy, the success, the happiness, the security, knowing that your child has the career they want, doing what they want to do, living where they want to live. Feels good, doesn't it? That's the kind of thing we're all shooting for in life, am I right? Unfortunately, there aren't any magic wands, and I'm guessing you already know this, which is why you're probably here. Getting what they want out of life isn't just going to happen. It's going to take work, and it's going to take some struggle, and it's going to cost some money. But don't worry, because in the next 45 minutes, I'll be revealing the 5-step strategy our clients used to save tens of thousands of dollars on their kids' college while also preparing them to lead prosperous, successful, happy lives working in careers they love. But first of all, let me introduce myself. Hi, I'm Jim Hood. I'm a husband and father, an award-winning co-author of 3 books on college and career choice and life planning. I'm also an entrepreneur who has, with my wife, run multiple successful businesses. I have a master's degree in adult development and aging and started coaching and mentoring and consulting with people, young and old, about 20 years ago. And in that time, I've worked with several thousand people. But my passion is helping young adults launch into the world using our 3 books. Where's the Map? Create Your Own Guide to Life After Graduation. Test Drive Your Future, your step-by-step guide to choosing the perfect career, which has both high school and college editions. And most recently, our online course, the Test Drive Your Future Experience. With these, we've been helping young adults make these pivotal decisions since 2008. So if you're the parent of a high school or college-age son or daughter who is struggling with figuring out what they want to be when they grow up, or if you just want to help them get it figured out as quickly and easily and cheaply as possible, then this is the presentation for you. But if you don't want to get involved, or you just want to help let them figure it out for themselves while possibly wasting several extra years in college and also wasting tens of thousands of dollars in the process, then go ahead and turn this off right now. Oh, good, you're still with me. Now, before we dive in, I want to give you an idea of what we'll be covering in this presentation. I'll start off speaking for a few minutes about why I think every high school and college student needs to go through a college and career exploration process. Then I'll tell you a little bit about how I royally screwed up my own college and career journey, and years later, ended up living on a goat farm in the middle of the ocean, and how that experience led to the work I'm doing today. Then I'll dive into that 5-step strategy I promised, really getting into what it will take for your son or daughter to choose a career that will make them prosperous, successful, and happy. And then we'll wrap up with what life could look like for your son or daughter if they successfully navigate these difficult decisions. Now, as a disclaimer, I use the word college a lot in this presentation, but that doesn't mean that I think that everyone needs to go to a 4-year university. It's pretty well understood that most people will have to get some kind of training after high school to be successful, be it a 2-year degree from a community college or some kind of trade school or apprenticeship or self-study program. But just know that for the rest of this presentation, for the sake of simplicity, I'm just going to say college. Okay? Well, let's get started. As an author and a coach who started working with young people about 20 years ago, I would strongly advise against just leaving your kids to figure this one out without your help. Why is this? Because most young people have never had to make a decision this big in their lives before. It's bigger, a more expensive commitment than they've ever had to face, and most of them just have not been given the proper tools and information to make such a big decision. Get this. According to NBC News, almost 80% of students start college not knowing what they want to major in. And in a lot of cases, it takes them so long to figure it out that only about a third of students graduate in 4 years, and for many, earning a bachelor's degree takes 6 years or more. And this would be all well and good if it were 1978, when disco was king and the average cost for tuition and room and board at a 4-year college was about $2,500. But now, even the most middle-tier state public colleges are starting at about $25,000 per year, and many elite schools are well over $50,000 per year. Just 1 year at most of these schools would buy you a nice new car. Check it out. The cost of 1 year at an inexpensive public college could buy you a brand new Toyota. 1 year at a private school costs just about as much as a brand new Audi luxury sedan. And you could buy one of these new cars every year that your son or daughter is in school, which is often between 4 and 7 years. So you're going to need a bigger garage. Or 4 to 7 years at just about any school would buy a decent house in many parts of the country. Maybe not along the coasts, but definitely in the middle, which is exactly what your son or daughter is going to need when they graduate. Except if they're like most young people today, so burdened with student loan debt, they won't even be able to think about buying a house until they're in their 20s or 30s, if even then. Check out the homes you can buy for between $100,000 and $200,000 where I originally grew up in the Midwest. But it's all worth it, right? It's an investment in their future, right? Not necessarily. What really sucks about all of this is that according to the National Center for Education Statistics, up to 77% of graduates are not working in the field of their college major within 4 years of finishing school. A recent Gallup poll says that 70% of Americans aren't even happy with their careers, and over 50% of graduates from most popular college majors report being unemployed or underemployed. So let me translate. There's a good possibility that your son or daughter is about to waste several years of their life, spend tens, if not hundreds of thousands of dollars getting a college major they aren't going to use to get a job they won't like, that won't make enough money to pay the bills anyway. How do I know? Because that's exactly what I did, which is why helping young people in this way is so important to me. That's me on the right, when I graduated from high school. Look at me, so wide-eyed and naive. I don't have a clue about what I'm about to get myself into. So I graduated from Illinois State University in 1998 with a bachelor's in psychology, not realizing that the only jobs that would get me were entry-level office work, as a lackey folding jeans at the mall, or as a waiter at a restaurant. I knew my senior year of college that I didn't know what I wanted to do next, so I took the well-worn path of graduate school, and a year and a half later I graduated with a master's in gerontology. Lucky for me, college was only about $10,000 a year in the late 90s, but I still graduated with about $30,000 in student loans. Having discovered while studying gerontology that this also was not the subject for me, I still didn't know quite what to do with myself, so I put off the real world for yet another year by joining AmeriCorps, spending a year building low-income housing with Habitat for Humanity in Seattle, where I learned that I'm also not cut out to be a carpenter. But lucky for me, that's where I met my wife, Beth. It was then that Beth and I started volunteering with a local high school youth group. The people who ran the organization were so impressed with us that within a few months they offered us both full-time jobs. Beth totally lucked out and got the job as the director of the youth program. And yes, that's me in the bottom right-hand corner, dressed as a bunch of purple grapes holding a pair of gigantic underpants. You remember those Fruit of the Loom commercials, right? I, on the other hand, was offered the position of facilities manager, which in this case was a fancy title for the person who ran the janitorial program. But I didn't care. I was just so happy to have a good-paying job that also allowed me to keep volunteering with the youth. But you can only do work that is mind-numbingly boring for so long. And after 2 years of having my team make sure that the carpets were vacuumed and the chewing gum was out of the upholstery and that they wiped up the pee from the intentional misfires in the boys' room, I'd had enough. To top it off, the dot-com bubble was just about to burst, the Seattle economy was tanking fast, and because of budget cuts, Beth was about to be let go, and I was about to be demoted from the king of the janitors to just plain janitor. The straw that broke the camel's back was the day my supervisor told me that one of my new duties was going to be sweeping up cigarette butts in the parking lot every morning. I just couldn't bring myself to do it, not with a master's degree. We had to make a change, and fast. But believe it or not, after all these years in school and tens of thousands in tuition, we still didn't know what we wanted to do with ourselves. And after spending a few years working 70-hour weeks between our jobs and our volunteering, we had little time left to figure it out. So we decided to do something crazy, something drastic. We quit our jobs, gave away most of our worldly possessions, and move sight unseen to a small cabin on an off-grid goat farm owned by a crazy man in the middle of nowhere on the big island of Hawaii, in an area best known for having the highest concentrations of old hippies and wanted FBI fugitives in the whole state. Needless to say, our parents weren't thrilled. Check out that solar water-heated shower. It only had 2 settings, scalding hot in the middle of the afternoon and freezing cold at any other time of day. Why did we do this? Because we were absolutely desperate to get off the hamster wheel for just a while, to take some time to figure out who we were and what we wanted to do with our lives. It was there that we learned how to make a lot of the healthy foods that we eat now from scratch, like kombucha and yogurt and sauerkraut. We herded and milked goats. We raised chickens. We grew vegetables in our garden. We even helped with the birth of a few kid goats, but I'll spare you those pictures. We even washed our laundry by hand in 5-gallon buckets. And since our cabin lacked flush toilets, we also went to the bathroom in 5-gallon buckets and then had to walk a quarter of a mile to bury our poop. I know what you're thinking. Besides gross. Don't worry, we never got the buckets confused. The laundry buckets were white and the bathroom buckets were orange. And yes, I'll spare you those pictures too. But let me tell you, you have not lived until you've carried a 5-gallon bucket full of pee a quarter of a mile down a gravel road and then used it to water plants. Yuck. It was during these 6 months on the farm, spent reading, writing, researching, and tending goats, that I started figuring out what was missing from my education and my upbringing that made me stumble the way that I did. And I started to figure out how I could fill in the gaps for other young people and help them skip past all of the hardships that I endured and move right into successful, lucrative, fulfilling careers without having to move to a goat farm in Hawaii to work through a quarter-life crisis. I'll share what I learned with you now, if you'd like. If not, you can just turn this off and go watch Netflix. But I guarantee this will benefit you and your son or daughter a lot more than binge watching old episodes of Friends. Okay, so as promised, here it is. The 5-step strategy our clients use to save tens of thousands of dollars on their kids' college while also preparing them to lead prosperous, successful, happy lives working in careers they love. Are you ready? All right, let's dive in. Okay, so the first step is to help them get a firm grasp on who they are and what they want before they start their college and career search. I can't tell you the number of times I've heard a student say, I'll just figure it out when I get there. Even worse, I've heard parents and even school guidance counselors say the same thing. Can you imagine getting into a taxi or an Uber and starting the meter without knowing where you wanted to go? Like you'd say to the driver, I'll just start driving. I'll figure out where I want to go along the way. That would be one expensive cab ride. And once you got there, you might decide you've been dropped off somewhere you don't want to be. Now just imagine that same scenario, just replace the 30-minute cab ride with 6 years at a $30,000 a year school. Ouch. The second step is to help your son or daughter make a well-calculated, well-researched plan for their college and career path. After they have a good idea of who they are and what they want out of life, you can use your life experience to help them think about the careers, schools, and other decisions they're considering. Like I said earlier, most young people don't have much experience making plans for something as big, life-altering, long-term, and expensive as college or a career training program, so your help could make a huge difference in their success. And even if they refuse your help, that's fine, but it's your job as a parent to make sure they make this plan and at least share it with you. Because, well, you're probably going to end up paying for at least part of their schooling, and you need to at least make sure that the money is being spent somewhat intelligently. So, if step 1 was to help them figure out who they are and what they want, and step 2 is to help them make a plan for how to go out and achieve it, then step 3 is to help them actually put the plan to test before they put it into action. This is where the rubber meets the road, where the real magic happens. And this is where the name Test Drive Your Future for our books and online course actually comes from. It's all well and good to think that you know what you want out of life, but it's another thing entirely to know it. And the only way to know it is to test it. For years, we've been saying that you wouldn't go out and spend 10 or dare I say hundreds of thousands of dollars on a car or truck without at least test driving it first. So why in the world would you spend several years of your life and tens or possibly hundreds of thousands of dollars to get trained for a career you aren't really sure you want? 2 examples. When I was 18, I thought I wanted to be a psychiatrist, so I started majoring in psychology. Unfortunately, I'd never spoken to or even met a psychiatrist. I had no idea what their workday looked like. I had no idea how much training they needed or how long it would take. As a matter of fact, the only psychiatrist I was even remotely familiar with was Dr. Fraser Crane from the TV shows Cheers and Frasier. And that really wasn't of any help at all. By the end of my senior year, my interest in psychology had fizzled out. I had a degree, but I had no idea what to do with it. And even worse was a colleague of mine who now runs an international gap year organization. She went all the way through graduate school thinking that she wanted to be a marine biologist. It wasn't until her internship here in Hawaii at the end of her graduate program that she actually got to do the work in the real world, which she found to be hot, uncomfortable, boring, smelly, and ultimately not something she wanted to spend her life doing. From our perspective, one of the most important things that you can do when you think you want to do something is to find a way to test your idea. Interview, job shadow, apprentice, or intern with somebody who already does what you think you want to do. Get as much experience as you can in that field before you get started on your college and career journey so you can proceed with the confidence and clarity of purpose that only comes with experience. Tip number 4 is to help them find a mentor, coach, or an accountability buddy, preferably all 3. There is something to be said for being a trailblazer, particularly if you're hoping to do something that's never been done before. But if you're looking to take a more well-worn path, there is something to be said for the time, energy, and money that can be saved by working with a mentor. Tiger Woods is one of the best golfers in history, but where would he be without the mentors that were there with him when he was just learning the game, or the swing coaches he's worked with throughout his professional career? While your son or daughter is looking for someone to interview or shadow as part of their test drive, have them keep a lookout for a good mentor in their field, someone who's been there and done that, who can give them some advice on how to shorten their learning curve and to make their path to success just a little easier. And what will your son or daughter do when the going gets tough, or when they're having trouble getting motivated in the first place? Sometimes it's hard to get started when you face a really daunting project with an unforgiving deadline. You know, something like choosing a higher education and career path when you're 17 years old. Sometimes it's just figuring out where to start, or how to get going again after you stumble, or figuring out what goals to set. Or maybe the hardest thing, actually sticking to your goals until you've accomplished them. How many New Year's resolutions have you made and broken over the years? How many diet and exercise programs have you started and stopped? See what I mean? This is where having a coach or an accountability partner, or maybe a whole team of them, would be invaluable. Some of the most successful people in the world rely on coaches to help them set goals and hold them accountable to achieving them. Big names like Eric Schmidt of Google, Oprah Winfrey, Denver Broncos star Von Miller, rock music superstars Metallica and Justin Bieber, acting legends Leonardo DiCaprio and Hugh Jackman, and even former President Bill Clinton have all benefited greatly from working with coaches and accountability partners. The fact that your child is about to make a decision regarding what to do for the rest of his or her life is such a big deal that it shouldn't be taken lightly, and it absolutely should not be done alone. A few minutes ago, I mentioned the idea of having a whole team of people supporting your son or daughter as they begin their quest into the great big world, which leads us to the 5th and final tip. We think it's critical that your son or daughter find a group of people to support them on their college and career path. We call these people their navigation team. A navigation team is a group of people in your student's life who will provide them with the support, expertise, advice, and a little cheerleading along the way. It will help move them forward along their path with confidence and help get them moving again when they get stuck. Having a great navigation team is one of the biggest keys to being wildly successful in college, in career, and in life as a whole. So who should be on their team? Let's take a look. First of all, you as the parents. Regardless of what your relationship with your son or daughter looks like now, you've raised them, clothed them, fed them, sheltered them, and have ultimately been among the most important influences in their life. That, and you're probably going to get stuck with at least part of the bill for this college and career journey, so you should at least have some input in the process. And even though it might not seem like it, given how mature and independent your son or daughter is becoming, they might need you now more than ever at this time, simply for the fact that, again, they have never been faced with decisions this big, expensive, important, and scary. The second group of people your son or daughter should bring on board their team are mentors. This could be mentors in their chosen career field or their field of study, or it could be anyone they look up to and consider successful. It could be someone they know well, like a teacher, extended family member, sports coach, or someone they know only from a distance, like a business person in your community. In addition to a navigation team, should be a guidance counselor, teacher, or career coach who's well-versed in the career choice process. This type of expert will be aware of a wider range of career options and have access to a large number of self-assessment tests and have a great deal of professional experience helping match people to great fitting careers. Also, having a supportive group of friends in your child that your child can lean on during this important time can have a big impact on their success. While peers in their age group can't offer the same kind of advice that comes from the expertise or life experience of older team members, friends are likely a huge part of your son or daughter's life, so they shouldn't be ignored. Encourage your son or daughter to discuss their college and career choice process with their friends. Perhaps they'll be able to offer some insight or advice that they might not get from an older teacher or mentor. Now, you might be saying to yourself, Jim, this all sounds great, but how could I or my son or daughter even begin to implement all of these things? We already have so much to do. Why, after all of the SAT prep and college applications, community service, and extracurricular activities, not to mention the actual schoolwork my child's already completed just to be considered for college admission, should they have to do one more thing? Well, if you remember all of the statistics I quoted at the beginning of this video, again, there's a good chance that your son or daughter is about to waste several years of their life spending tens, if not hundreds of thousands of dollars getting a college major they aren't going to use to get a job they don't like that won't make enough money to pay the bills anyway. That's a good reason. Which is why, dear parents, we beg you to help your son or daughter come up with a plan for their college and career journey. Like it or not, graduation is just around the corner, or maybe has already come and gone, and decisions and plans will have to be made and money will have to be spent if you want to avoid having them staying in their childhood bedroom and living off of you for years to come. And even if your kid's one of the 20% who really knows what he or she wants to major in, can you imagine how much smoother things would go if they implemented our suggestions anyway? They could be one of the few who graduates on time, or dare I say, even early. They might discover that what they really want to do can be learned in a one-year apprenticeship program instead of at a four-year university. That could save them $75,000 or more in unnecessary expense right there. Now, lucky for you, we've created a program that implements these 5 steps and a whole lot more so you and your son or daughter can make these college and career plans and put them into action as quickly, easily, and inexpensively as possible. We call this program the Test Drive Your Future Experience, and it's designed to walk students and parents through the process of uncovering, testing, and choosing a career path with confidence. So here is what the course includes. The 40-lesson Test Drive Your Future Experience curriculum is delivered online and includes text, audio, video, and interactive materials. Regardless of where your son or daughter is in the college and career choice process, these activities have the power to take them from completely clueless or kind of sure about what they want to do next to being ready to move forward with complete confidence and clarity. And all lessons include activities for both student and parents. So this is a brief overview of the actual one of the lessons in the course. Every lesson starts with an introduction up at the top, and then when you get down into the middle, this is a form that you can actually fill out to answer the questions in the activity. Over there, that green button allows you to print or create a PDF of what you're filling out here, and below this activity that the son or daughter would be filling out is a blue box that has a parent or mentor activity, which is a way that you as the parent can interact with them in this activity. And below that, we've got Stories from the Road, which is a video or a written story from a person who's out in the world doing some work that really matters to them. And the system actually saves all of your answers right there on the server. And we've got a section over here called your driver profile where you can go and quickly see all of the answers that you filled in on all the activities. And it also has an area called the career lot, which is as you're going through the activities and you think of careers that you want to check out, you can put them there in your career lot and go back to them later for more research. All right. So the course also includes 3 one-on-one coaching sessions with either myself or one of our other test drive coaches at the beginning, middle, or end of the course for student participants, and multiple weekly group question and answer sessions with the instructors and coaches for both students and parents. For those questions that come up in between coaching sessions, this will allow us to get to know your son or daughter better and provide them with the best possible coaching and guidance throughout the course. The experience also includes DISC personality testing at the beginning of the course, which includes recommendations for the perfect kinds of training programs and careers for your son or daughter's personality type. And learning these DISC styles is probably one of the most important skills both you or your son or daughter could learn. Not only will it help them in choosing an educational and career path, but has the potential to benefit just about every interaction you have with other people for the rest of your life. And to help students when it's time to go out into the world to connect with mentors, possible internship sites, colleges, or potential employers, the course also includes instruction on how to interview and be interviewed, including 2 mock interviews with personalized feedback from a professional human resources interviewer, and resume writing lessons with feedback and revisions from a professional resume writer. And finally, to help your son or daughter practice these new communication skills, the experience offers unlimited voice and text access to the online Discord environment to interact with other course participants, instructors, and coaches. This is one of the biggest benefits of the course. Discord is like our virtual dojo, where everyone gets to practice in a safe, supportive environment. During the course, we're going to be asking students to do a good amount of interacting and interviewing with people from around the world, but we don't plan to send them out into the world cold. We use Discord so students can practice with other students, parents, coaches, and other participants until their confidence is through the roof. This alone is going to make a phenomenal difference in the way your son or daughter presents themselves in the real world and is going to set them apart from 99% of their peers in many aspects of life, but especially when they're looking to get into school or get hired. Using Discord, not only will your child gain these invaluable skills, but they'll probably be able to fill out their navigation team that I mentioned earlier, and they'll probably end up making lifelong friends. And in addition to the core curriculum, the coaching, and the interactive activities mentioned so far, the Test Drive Your Future experience also comes with the following bonuses, which are going to be invaluable to your son or daughter's future success. The first is instructions on how to create a positive social media presence that will get you noticed in a good way by schools and employers. This is such a huge issue right now because both colleges and employers are doing extensive internet searches on every student or candidate they're considering. Your child could have a perfect grade point average and have spent the last 4 years volunteering every weekend at the local orphanage, but 1 or 2 screw-ups on social media can undo all of that hard work. This mini course will show you how to present yourself online so you look good to the people you need to without sucking all of the fun out of being on social media. And Albert Einstein once said, "Education is not the learning of facts, but training the mind to think." So the second bonus is a complete Intro to Logic course for teens. This is one of the biggest, most important things missing from schools today. And unfortunately, in recent decades, there has been so much emphasis on memorizing and regurgitating facts and teaching kids specifically so they will perform well on standardized tests that they are no longer being taught how to reason, think critically, and solve problems. And according to a recent issue of Psychology Today, the reported decline in thinking ability is occurring at a time where there are increasing shortages of qualified candidates for jobs in science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. Indeed, a young adult whose brain has been wired to be innovative, think critically, and problem solve is at a tremendous competitive advantage in today's increasingly complex competitive world. So mastering these critical thinking skills will put your son or daughter way ahead of the competition for college, jobs, and in just about every area of life. So now, before we wrap up, I want to share a few words from 2 students who participated in our course. So this one's from Esther, and she said, "The exciting and interactive format and engaging questions set me on a path of clarifying my life goals. After having worked through it, I developed a clear focus and direction as to my next steps in life." And next, we'll hear from Shivani, and she said, "After years of listening to the adults in my life express their frustration, boredom, and anxiety about their jobs, I made the decision that I would spend my own adult life doing something that was genuinely worth my time and energy, something I could walk away from at the end of the day feeling inspired and fulfilled by. Test Drive Your Future has increased my confidence and my ability to achieve this. I commend the Hoods for creating a straightforward and engaging tool to help my generation enter the real world in a way that's satisfying and meaningful." And one quick testimonial from Joyce, who's a mom of 2 teenage girls. And she said, "When I heard Jim and Beth speak, I was impressed and delighted by their spunk, their authenticity, and their skill in connecting with the young adult crowd. They are both brilliant speakers with a clear dedication to helping young people make fulfilling life choices. They're the kind of people you want influencing your kids." Okay, so now I've given you the 5-step strategy and told you a little about how we could help you with that process through our course, if you choose to work with us. And now I want to slow down for just a moment, do a little visualization exercise. As we begin to wrap up, I want you to pause again for just a minute or two, take a few deep breaths, and reflect on the journey that you've been on with your child for the last 10 to 20 years. The ups and downs, the highs and lows, the early mornings and late nights, the poopy diapers and the spit up, helping them learn how to walk, talk, read, helping them with homework, chaperoning field trips and birthday parties, sleepovers, Mother's Days, Father's Days, preschool, elementary school, middle school, high school. You've been there for all of it, helping them, guiding them, raising them, preparing them to be the best and brightest they could be. It has been so much work and so much struggle, but also so much joy. And now, here you are. They are just about ready to leave the nest and take flight into the big, bad world. This is what you've been preparing them for, and now it is go time. And I'll ask you again, if you could wave a magic wand and have your child's ideal future just poof into existence, what would it look like? What would it feel like? Take a minute to get those images into your mind again. Because I wasn't kidding when I said it's a big, bad world. And while you've done your best to prepare them up to this point, a lot can happen in these next few years that can either make or break your child's future. I'm not kidding. These next few years can either set them up for a lifetime of success and happiness or decades of struggle and frustration. Like I said earlier, most students aren't finishing college in 4 years, but are taking 5, 6, or 7 years to get a 4-year degree. Most students are graduating with student loan debt, and in many cases, 5- and 6-figure debts. And unfortunately, many graduates are either not using their expensive degrees or aren't making enough to afford both their loan payments and their living expenses. As a matter of fact, in the US right now, there are 25 million young adults who've had to move back in with their parents because they can't afford to make it on their own. Those who are on their own are putting off buying homes, getting married, and starting families of their own just because they can't afford to. But it doesn't have to be this way. Now close your eyes for just a minute. I want you to picture your son or daughter looking right at you with the steely-eyed confidence that comes with knowing exactly what they want to do with their lives, being clear and confident about the choices they've made, confident in their skills, their abilities, their wants, their hopes, their dreams. Imagine them being able to clearly and confidently articulate all of this to anyone they meet, using the critical thinking and rhetorical skills they possess that most of their peers do not. Imagine them attending the right school or training program, confident that they've chosen the right path that will get them where they want to go, be it an apprenticeship, trade school, college, graduate school, whatever's right for them. Maybe they could even get started in one of the 12-month apprenticeship programs we recommend, where 98% of graduates start at $40,000 to $50,000 a year before they're 20. Or maybe they'll just blast through college on time, on budget, and get started in an in-demand career they have had their sights on all along, or even begin graduate, medical, or law school, all according to their plan. Regardless of the details, imagine your son or daughter starting life as the prosperous, successful person you've always wanted them to be. Doesn't that feel great? I thought so. So, now you have a choice. You can either take everything that I've shared with you in this presentation and just forget about it and hope for the best. Hope that your son or daughter has this all figured out and is able to avoid the pitfalls that I've shared and is able to find their way through these confusing and expensive next few years of life on their own. Or you could just try to implement these 5 strategies I've given you yourselves, because there's plenty of material to work with there. Or if you want to avoid having to reinvent the wheel, and if you and your son or daughter are ready to dive in and start making these decisions that could lead to a life of success, prosperity, and happiness, and have a lot of fun, meet a lot of new people, and grow closer together as a family in the process, then here is what I have for you. My team and I have set aside some time in the next few days to speak with you and your family personally about how we can help you and your son or daughter apply everything I've presented in this webinar. On this call, we'll determine if the Test Drive Your Future Experience program is a good fit for you and if you're a good fit for the program. And if so, we will begin to work with you to craft a step-by-step game plan that will help you and your son or daughter start making these big decisions and get them on the path to the prosperous, successful, happy life that they deserve and that you have always wanted for them. So, if you and your son or daughter are 1. Ready and willing to learn and open yourselves up to new possibilities, 2. Willing to commit, show up and do the work, 3. Willing to follow advice and listen to feedback, 4. Willing to allow yourselves to get better than you ever thought you could be, then book a call now. To book your call, go ahead and visit testdriveyourfuture.com/apply. Once again, that's testdriveyourfuture.com/apply, or click the book a call now button, which is going to appear just below this presentation. So I am really looking forward to speaking with you to learn more about you and your children and your family so that we can figure out how to best help your son or daughter achieve the life of success and happiness that you want for them. But I can only help them if you book a call. And space in this course is extremely limited. And available spots fill up really fast. And I'd hate for your son or daughter to miss out on this once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. So again, go to testdriveyourfuture.com/apply. Once again, that's testdriveyourfuture.com/apply, and click the Book a Call Now button that is appeared just below this presentation. Thank you very much for attending this webinar, and I do look forward to speaking with you soon. Aloha.